Welcome to JasonWhiskyWise. My name is Jason. Welcome today to Whiskey Review as we're going to be reviewing the Teachers Highland Cream. Now this is part of our series into Blended Scotch Whiskies. And I'll say a massive thank you to my cousin who picked up this whiskey trio pack as it was part of my Christmas present this year, or actually last year. And it came with the Teachers, Grants and Famous Grouse. Now if you're new to my channel, I've recently just been covering all the blended Scotch whiskies and I'm going to leave them linked here. I've covered Famous Grouse, Grants, Bells, and today we're covering Teachers. Now, Teachers Highland Cream, what is it? It's a no-age statement whiskey. It's bottled at 40%, so it's an entry-level blended Scotch whiskey. It's owned by a company called Beam Suntory, and these are the guys in Scotland. They own Laphroaig, Bamor, Glengarry and Auchentoshan, and I believe also Ardmore, if I'm mistaken, or maybe not. But they also own Jim Beam in America, and they own Suntory stuff in Japan. So that is Yamazaki Yakushu and Hibiki and Toki, I believe, as well. So they have a very big umbrella all around the world. Now, in terms of the actual whiskey, how many whiskeys go into making this? Supposedly, to what I've read, is 30 different malt whiskeys go into making this blend, and that's not including the grain. And the actual percentage, now, normal blended whiskies, as a rule of thumb, is 40% malt, 60% grain, because grain is much more faster and easier, more faster to produce, I'd say. But with Teachers Highland Cream, it's 45%, so they use 5% more than the regular sort of 60-40 ratio. Now, that proportion of that is actually from the Ardmore distillery, and that's what goes into making Teachers Highland Cream that little bit smokier. Now, in terms of the price point, you must be wondering how big or how expensive is a 1 litre bottle in the UK. It's £18. It's around about £18 at this moment in our local supermarkets. And is it exclusive? No. Does it contain caramel colouring? It probably does. Because it is, at the end of the day, loads of blended whiskies coming together, well, lots of whiskies coming together. You're going to have batch variances. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the nose. So to begin on the nose of Teachers Highland Cream, this gives you that sort of distinctive smoky essence straight off the back of the nose. It's almost like you're smelling pine, but burning pine needles, not the pine wood itself, but the needles, as if you put them into a fire pit and you can just smell them sort of fizzling out. There is a slight earthy character, and the earthiness to me is almost like autumn leaves. And then you get the spices, and these are like a combination. You've got allspice, you've got... This is very interesting. It's almost like salami, but it's like peppered salami that's been even smoked out a little bit. I'm getting a sweetness, and it's like that smoky sweetness, but it's almost to me like a toffeed apple, as it's got a fruity undertone. And there is a note there which is rather metallic-y. And there's also even another character there, which is almost like a green grapes. As if you opened a packet of green grapes straight away, open the box of them, you're getting that sweet sort of fruity aroma. Quite a lot going on the nose, I have to admit. That is a rather complex nose for a blended Scotch whiskey. So let's get into the palate. Let's see if we can get the same on the palate. So to begin on the palate, this is quite spicy. It's distinctive. If you had to try this in a blind tasting, you would know, if you're very familiar with blends, straight away off the bat, that this is Teachers. You're getting this sort of combination of almost like allspice. You're getting white pepper. You're getting a bit of clove, adding a little bit of heat into the mix. I was going to say candied ginger, but it's not that hot. You do get a slight note in it. There's almost that earthy, musky character of if you're being in a dunnage, in a distillery, and you get that sort of almost that oldish character to it, but it's not really an old whiskey being a blend. There is a slight, almost like a charred character to this one. And I would say it's almost like you've taken a piece of bread, put it in the toaster, and you've left it there for too long, and then you realise when it's popped up, it's slightly burnt on a corner, and you've taken a bite out of this corner. You're getting that phenolic, almost smoky character, but it's not heavily smoky, but I'd say it's a light medium smokiness about it. And then that's sort of what I find this tastes like on the palate. It then goes into a slight cereal note, and it's almost like granola, as if you're taking a granola bar, not just loose granola, but like a granola bar without any chocolate involved, and that you're just taking sort of like a bite out of that. But I'm getting that sort of that green grape character still coming back through from the nose. I'm still finding that on the palate. And in terms of texture, consistency, texture-wise, it's like a medium texture. It's actually a bit more richer than the Bells I just reviewed, and I'll leave that linked here in the top corner. So, without further ado, let's get into the finish, and we'll come to our conclusion on the Teachers Highland Cream. So, overall opinions on the finish of this whiskey. I'm getting sort of these notes that's almost, I don't know, this is going to sound weird, but it's like barbecue sauce. And as you're taking barbecue sauce, it's got a slight briny saltiness. It's a lot like you had a little bit of too much salt to barbecue sauce, and you drizzle this over a chicken wing. That's the sort of character I'm getting here now on the finish. It's quite briny. The saltiness is really evident on the finish of this whiskey. And it's almost like you've taken a bottle of Worcestershire sauce and you're just taking a drizzle and you're putting that and you're taking the bite straight off that, giving you that character. And there's a slight nuttiness about it. Oily nuttiness. Almost like walnuts in this one. So I'm going to keep that down here. I'm going to give it a rating and I'll give you guys my opinion. For this one, I decided I'm going to give it an 82. In terms of the flavour on the nose of this one is fantastic. It's got complexity. However, when you go into the palate, you're greeted by a lot of spice up front. And for me, I feel that just knocked it down a bit too much. Compared to Famous Grouse, Grants and Bells that I've already just tasted, I just felt it just doesn't need that. And then the sort of saltiness on the finish for me, I think, was a bit too much. I felt if it just had a little bit more roundness to that salty character, it would probably be in line with Famous Grouse. But if you guys haven't seen the Famous Grouse video, I'll not spoil it for you. I'll leave it somewhere on the screen at the end. Go and check that one out. But personally, I tried this one with water. And if you add a few drops of water, it does quite a wonder. It reduces the spice. And if I was reviewing this whiskey with water, it would actually get a little bit more of a higher rating because it's got a sort of rounded character about it when you add water. It just takes up those spices, takes up that brininess, and it actually kind of makes it really nice and very well rounded. So my recommendation, do I think it's value for money? Yes. Well, in terms of would I add water to this whiskey, I would probably add water. If I bought a bottle of this one, I would add water to it. Just a few drops of water to see how it goes along. It's not something that needs time because it doesn't really evolve over time. It's mainly that factor of needing to dilute it just to reduce that slight saltiness about it. But 82 out of 100 is my score. If you have tried Teachers Highland Cream, leave it down below in the comment section. What's your opinions? Share me your thoughts. But on that note, if you have enjoyed, drop in a like. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and check out some videos on the screen here. But this has been me, JasonWhiskyWise, Mr. Bananas, who's been rather quiet for these blended series. I'm going to pick him to life in the next one. But anyway, I'll catch you guys for the next video. Slàinte.